Hello, once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1, my new book featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know. It's available now at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Well, David Cross, best known as a member of King Crimson on the Larks Tongues in Aspic and Starless and Bible Black albums, also on Red. He also leads the David Cross Band, which I love, and has been a guest artist recording and performing live with a number of international groups, including Stickmen. Andrew Keeling is a composer and musician whose contemporary classical works have been internationally acclaimed. Besides working with David Cross, he has also orchestrated the music of Robert Fripp, arranged for Tim Bowness, as well as playing with alt rock band the Gong Farmers. Keeling has also written a series of musical guides exploring the music of such bands as King Crimson. October's Marigold is the second album from David Cross and Andrew Keeling, and it is the third to appear on Noisy Records, electric chamber music label. Perhaps more strikingly than its predecessors, this recording epitomizes the aims of that label to present music designed for an intimate setting, which makes use of musical and electronic techniques used in rock. Cross and Keeling's English Sun was released in 2009, and the duo recorded much of October's Marigold in the same year. These tracks lay dormant until 2020 when work recommenced on the new album. Please welcome electric violinist and keyboardist, best known for playing with the progressive rock band King Crimson, David Cross, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, David.
Hi Ray, nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Love the album. It's very different than the David Cross band, of course.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a whole other area that I'm really only get to explore every now and again, and I'm really very pleased with the way this one turned out.
Would you call it? I know they call it background music or whatever, ambient. Could you
Yeah,
classify it as ambient music?
I guess that's if you had to find a category, and you do have to find a category when you try and place them. Ambient is the um, most I suppose apt of what exists already, but it sits to me somewhere between rock music and classical, new avant-garde classical music or modern classical music. Um, and but it does have a really nice, acoustic quality to it, which I think probably lends itself to the ambient label as well.
Well,
So
you
call it
guys
what you
complement each other very well. You know.
that's a very kind thing to say. I mean, we do have I think a shared understanding of um, what's dissonant, what goes together, what doesn't go together, how far you can go with things, how
Mhm.
you phrase things. There's a lot of empathy there, which was apparent from when we first got together. Before we produced our first album, English Sun. And I think it's kind of deepened in this album, and we've been able to wander into some probably darker territory than we have before. Um, and there's a greater freedom about kind of letting other styles look into the music,
Right.
which is a new thing, which has kind of emerged in this album. So there are bits of kind of folk music and all kinds of, and more. We've made kind of more use of natural sounds as well. We've got bird sounds in it and
Hmm.
things like that. And Andrew somehow seems to become more organic. He's kind of seems to be working with the wind now. To when the wind's there, he's like kind of moving in the wind and responding to the trees. And he's a photographer as well. He
Ah,
loves
okay.
he loves doing photographs of mountains and woods and rocks and things like that. And you can kind of hear that kind of coming through
Right.
now in his music. He seems to bend with the wind.
Bend with the Wind. That's a good title, by the way. Bend with the
Yeah, I'll
Wind.
write that one down now. Yeah,
Yeah. It's even good for a the title of an album. I mean, it's good for a track, but
yeah.
title of an album, Bend with the Wind. Um, I want to say, the flute and the violin complement each other so well, especially the electric violin. And like you said, an example on Kingfisher, where you can visualize the bird, the kingfisher being a bird. And it's amazing. Now, is this more improvisation, or have you planned these tracks and you know exactly what you're going to play, or you just kind of fiddled around with it first?
Uh, with none of them do we ever know exactly what what we're going to play. No, and we never know what it's about.
Right.
Not, I never do anyway. Um, that's almost a matter of principle with me to never know what I'm trying to do or never know if I set out to achieve something. It's always horrible. That's why I've attempted to be a pop star a number of times, and every time I try and create a pop song and try and get rich and famous, it just never
Yeah.
pans out. And every time I just get on with it, things start to sound more interesting. So I'm a bit like that. Andrew is kind of he is a he is a fully qualified PhD and creative and successful composer in his own
Mhm.
right,
Right.
and so he has more faith in his in his in his composition skills than I do. So he produced a couple of things for this.
Hmm.
Um, there was a guitar backing and some piano backings that he produced,
Okay.
which we used as kind of kick-off points.
Right.
Sometimes we just started playing, but we used those a couple of times. And I first noticed that when we did the last album, when he did do a few things like that, it's just his kind of understanding of harmony was just beautiful because
Hmm.
he was able to just do totally minimal things so that you were never tied down. In other words, you could play anything you liked over it, but at the same time, they had they implied chords without stating them. You know how kind of jazz chords are often very, very full, and
Right.
there's three or four instruments playing all the notes at the same time. If you're not careful, but he just has a couple of notes there, and it means everything suddenly. You understand the harmony, you understand the direction. And that's fantastic skill, which is way over my head. Um, and so he brings that to the table, and it's just like a lovely present. It's just somewhere
Yeah.
to sit, somewhere to relax, and somewhere to emerge from. So the quickest answer is yes, it's improvised. No, we never know what it's going to sound like. Except Andrew maybe has a better clue than I do.
This kind of music, though, you would think you'd have some kind of visualization, like a movie. You're watching a bird fly for about an hour or two before you write the music. You know, I couldn't just do it without seeing something to inspire me.
It's the kind of inner landscape, I think. I mean, for a while now, I've thought that that when I'm improvising,
Hmm.
I feel very much like I'm kind of moving through a three-dimensional space.
Right.
It's a kind of abstract feeling, but
Huh.
but very strong, very very kind of organic. It's not like it's a clear landscape or anything, but I very often feel as though I'm moving, almost sometimes like flying. And I wonder if it's like I was thinking about it earlier in the year. I can't remember the stuff I read, but there was. I just wonder if it's to do with swinging through trees. It goes right back to, to that kind of
Swinging
thing.
through trees.
Yeah, it's kind of that's the nearest I can think of to the feeling I have. It's kind of
Huh.
somewhere between flying, but there's a kind of bit of effort in coming off the ground or
Right.
moving that makes me feel like it's more like swinging through trees these days. But I think when we get into that place and just start feeling with our unconscious or our souls or whatever it is that's in there, we suddenly everything comes back to us, and one of the wonderful things I'm sure all of us have got from the lockdown and the nightmare of the coronavirus
Hmm.
it's a greater connection with nature. I mean,
Exactly.
so many people talk about that,
Yeah.
and I particularly right at the beginning of it, I remember just really feeling that. And just because I remember it was a beautiful spring here in the UK, and we were able, usually it's quite cold really in the spring here, but we were able
Hmm.
to actually get out, in our little bit of garden, and I was amazed all the birds came to see us. They, they were there talking to us, performing to us, demanding to be fed, watered. We've had ourselves in bird cages and bird cages, bird feeders,
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff.
Maybe they
Uh,
were on lockdown too.
yeah, maybe they're still around anyway. They're still there. But I
Y-
think I think it kind of those kind of. I think when we get into that space,
Right.
I think it does trigger that kind of fundamental relationship with nature and with
Yep.
our kind of our more fundamental selves. So I think it's kind of natural to get into those sort of feelings and to represent those kind of sounds because those are survival
Right.
sounds,
Right.
and feeding sounds, and
Yeah.
everything is in interpreting the sounds and the images around you, isn't it?
They stirred up the creative juices in you guys,
Yes.
basically, and that's how you
Yeah.
wrote and developed this music.
Yeah.
You were saying swinging through trees. Maybe Darwin was right.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure Diamond was right. Yeah.
That's funny. But I understand it perfectly what you're saying, especially out of lockdown, it's yeah. Just talking to people is a big deal nowadays. I went to a little gathering, a little party here, and we haven't seen a lot of these people in such a long time. And we just talked and talked and talked and caught up for, such a long time. It's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, Freddie. That's why I'm just away. It's too much time here on my own.
Well, other tunes on the album I love. It's very difficult today to figure out instruments because even the electric violin sounds like an electric guitar at times. I
Yes.
and I can't tell the difference,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm. Yeah.
And on one song, I'm thinking the October's Marigold, which I love. That's one of my favorite. I love all the Marigold tunes, by the way.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that an organ intro in the beginning?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, good. I got that one right.
Yeah. It is.
Like I said, it's hard to tell sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's Andrew Keeling. He contributed that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful
That's it.
track. Wonderful track. And
Yeah. It is. Yeah. The thing about the electric violin being sounding like a guitar is
right.
it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Mm,
But then I can't. I like that sound, but I can't play guitar, so I don't have a choice. So
yeah.
I have to do that. But it's a stupid thing to do because everybody thinks it's a guitar, and they, they don't think it's me. And I'm saying, "Hey, that's me playing this. Why are you sounding like that?" I don't understand why I did. Actually, in that one, I think in October's Marigold, I think some of that I was trying to sound like a trumpet, from what I remember. I think I had kind of messed around with the attack a bit, and that was I think inspiring me at the time.
Mm,
That kind of muted Miles Davis sort of trumpet. Well,
right.
that's what I was trying to get. That was the kind of attack I was trying to get at. So I think he was lurking around there, swinging through the trees with me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think so.
Fantastic.
I love improvisation music, and I've got Billy Cobham. He's a
Oh, wow.
friend. I've had him on the show many times. He's coming up next week. But of course, the Spectrum album,
Yeah,
a lot of that on that too. And of course, John McLaughlin and Mahavishnu.
incredible people. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. But you and your partner there, you got a lot of good things going on. You're headed in
Yeah,
that direction, I think.
yeah, yes. I think it's interesting. I kind of like. In some ways, I'm tempted to sort of add a drums and bass to it, but it kind of defeats the point of what we set out to do,
Right.
really.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see what happens if we do. But it kind it's because actually a lot of for some reason I've ended up with with the David Cross band and doing a lot of songs because that's
Hmm.
just the direction that we went in, and I kind
Yeah.
of miss the kind of improvisational element, and this kind of makes up for that, really. But there's also an improvisational element. We have bass and drums as well, and
Hmm.
I've had some nice opportunities to do that. I mean, with Stickmen, I played with Stickmen. That was really good because that's their bread and butter as well, and
Yeah.
stuff I did with David Jackson was also use bass and drums. So I quite like that. I quite like that as well. I can never quite get everything into one basket. I can never, I can never say, this is what I want to do. I do it. I say, this is what I want to do today, and I do that. And then while I'm doing that, I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to do a bit of that? And,
David, you're not the only one. Everybody I talk to has like 10 projects going on at the same time. you know, it's enjoyable that way. You can do
it
anything you
is.
want,
It is.
basically.
Yeah. Life would be very boring, wouldn't it? To just do
Yeah.
one thing all the time. I agree.
You don't have a manager or a record company breathing down your neck like the old days saying, I need a hit. I need a hit.
No, no,
Different
no.
now.
Yeah, I have me every every
Yeah.
5 years says to me, David, I need a hit. I need a hit. It's been saying that to me for a long time, but that little bit of me is just getting more and more fed up and smaller and smaller now, as it realizes that probably isn't going to happen. That voice still goes there. Yeah, it would be nice. I'd love to be. Produce something that loads of people liked. That would be great. I'd really like to do that, but I just don't seem to get there.
Well, you got lots of friends, that you can
I do.
invite, you know, on the album. And that's what a lot of people are doing now too. They're just inviting a lot of talent, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, and there are some great people around. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong as a mountain lion.
Mm.
Interesting title, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that came after the music, really.
Yeah.
Uh, it was, I don't know, it's kind of something about the um, the African
Hmm.
plains of that to me, and there was this just kind of inner strength all the way through that, um, which I was struck by. And kind of not what you expect to come out somehow of a kind of quasi acoustic album, a kind of
Right.
chamber music thing. But it was real sense of power and strength that I got from that.
Hmm. Ever Nearer. Now there's a violin solo in that, correct?
Is there? I can't remember.
Was that you? Kind of sounded like a hoedown in the middle of that
Oh
song.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was one of the other sort of influences popping in. I
Yeah.
had, yeah, no, I had a great deal of doubt about all that. I had, I had conversations when we got to the mixing. I said to Andrew, "You sure we want to keep this bit?" I said, "Just go with the rest." He said, "Oh yeah, nice. It's
I like it.
fantastic." Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think he's right. He just has more courage than me. He's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
he's unafraid to go out there where none have gone before. And Mark Graham, who mixed it, also thought it was worth keeping in.
Hmm.
It's kind of it does alarm me sometimes. I mean, when I'm playing the kind of things that just pop in there. What the hell am I going to do next? It's a kind of like a positive version of neurosis. I remember being kind of having stage fright. So I don't get it at all as I've got older. So it's
Yeah.
10 years or so. But particularly when I was younger, I used to have a lot of stage fright, and
Hmm.
I remember being on stage with Crimson once,
Yeah.
and I wanted to rush off the stage, and the only thing kind of holding me on the stage was when I was playing mellotron was my fingers on the keys, and they were just almost coming off, and I was going to leave the stage, it was just neurosis and fear, and that was just like my fingers were just glued to the keys just enough to keep
That's
me on.
funny.
So I wanted to be there, just just 51% more than the 49% that wanted to leave the stage at that point. It wasn't like that all the time, but every now and again, the terrors would come through to me
Well,
like that.
what's cool in Crimson, you could hide. Nobody would care, you know.
Yes, yeah,
You know, that happened to Richie Blackmore. I just talked to Candace yesterday, his wife,
yeah,
and before Purple, the band he was in, they had to push him because he would hide in the corner because he's a very what's the word, whatever, I can't remember it now. Introvert. He was an introvert.
yeah.
So they had to push him out on stage because he was always hiding in the corner. So yeah, it's interesting. So you're telling me you don't want to be a front man in a band, huh? You don't want to be the next Ian Anderson.
Well, the trouble is, you do and you don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You just do and you do. You probably get successful. And if you don't and you don't. But if you do and you don't, you kind of half do and you half don't.
That's funny.
But it's a very human place to be, I think.
Oh, sure.
I want this, but I don't want it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not good for me.
Yeah.
We're just kind of ambivalent about everything, aren't we? Really, we're not sure about a lot of things.
Well, even Johnny Carson, after like 30 years or 40 years, he was always nervous when he first got on stage. It's natural. Yeah, it's very, very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it's just got much better. It's got much better since I started really kind of tuning into this feeling of to do with improvisation. When I think I started to say, I'm going to improvise whatever happens.
Right.
Started to treat like the playing of tunes as an improvisation rather than. I think I was doing it like a kind of 12-year-old doing their violin exams before. Trying to do that in front of an audience is not a good way to be. And I was always the 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Terrified of all the mistakes that were going to come out and all that. But somewhere along the way, I managed to but I'd always kind of been okay improvising.
Right.
And I somehow managed to turn on the switch in my head, say, okay, let's say you're improvising even when you're playing tunes.
Right.
And that started to kind of relax me a lot more. And knowing it's kind of like the thing, like knowing you could leave the stage, knowing I could improvise, and leave the stage. I could do actually anything I want.
Yeah.
Once I realised actually I do have that freedom, and it's my choice, and it's kind of I'm not going to sort of my parents won't cease to love me if I do so badly in this exam. Whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever the terrors are that we feel doing exams, I don't know where they come from. But it was once I started to do that, it became a more creative place to play, and I still get nervous, but it's kind of I know that it's energy, and
sure,
I know that it can get me through.
Exactly, turn it into energy. One of my favorite tracks, and I love where ambient goes into the spaciness. I love space. I love the spaciness of it, and that's the spiking darts that were trees. I love that track. It's probably my favorite track, I think, because of the spaciness of the tune.
Yeah.
That's a great track, and it's a long track with 8 minutes and 27 seconds. So it's the King Crimson Pink Floyd track.
Yes. Oh yeah. I was thinking of the last one. Yes, it is rather, isn't it? Yeah. I don't kind of have them characterized. I also I kind of listen to them and then I forget about them again. When we were mixing it, I was all over it. But now I haven't sort of listened for a while, and I'm coming back looking at it. I can't remember any of them now. And I've just somehow managed to click on my laptop, and you've disappeared. I know you're there because there you are. Right, miniaturized over here. I'm quite. I'll drag you back here. See what happens now. Oh, there we are. You're back full size.
Okay,
again.
Cool.
I don't know why you ran away like that.
I don't know. Who knows? Technology.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the dark side, and the last track, The Dark Edge of Desire and Marigold 4.
Yes.
And that's another incredible track. I love that track as well.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's a
Just
great album. I like it. I really enjoyed it.
I think you better talk to Andrew. He's a better memory than I do of the tunes. The kind of I've got them if I get them in front of me, I could probably play a bit, and then I might hear what it's all about. Mm.
I want to talk about King Crimson, but first of all,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the other band, the David Cross band, which,
Yeah. Oh.
Sign of the Crow and Crossing the Tracks, I really liked.
Yeah,
And
that
it,
was good. That was I was kind of I was a kind of session musician in a way on that.
right,
Um, because the tracks were given to me. I didn't choose the tracks. The tracks were presented to me by Jürgen, by Cleopatra, by the producer Jürgen,
right,
and um, that I found really liberating. So that I really kind of I relished the role of kind of somebody else making those big decisions.
yeah, yeah,
How does the music sound?
right.
They were pre-existing tracks and all the rest of it, and that freedom to just respond just on a gut level without having to kind of do the judgmental back and forth. Is
Hmm.
this right? Is this good? Just go for it, and whatever I do is right. It was really liberating on that. So crossing the tracks was a surprise for me, really, how much I enjoyed that.
Right.
And I was very pleased with the way it turned out.
The
And
David Cross band's got a great following. You got a lot of good
well, we
fans
have,
out there.
yeah, we do. There aren't that many of them, unfortunately. We could do with a few more, but they're very loyal, and they do seem to recognise what we're up to and what we do. Yeah, no,
But everyone
it's
needs to get Sign of the Crow and Crossing the Tracks, especially. You got a
yeah,
lot of women
yeah,
on that album, and a very famous one, the Israeli. They used to call her, I guess, the Israeli Madonna, which unfortunately she passed away at a young age.
yeah.
You pronounce her name? Is it Afra Haza? Is that how do you
I
pronounce it?
think so. I only saw it written down, so that's what. So I didn't meet her. So
But she played on several tracks, and you got a couple of covers on that album. You got White Bird, which is it's a beautiful day cover from way
yeah.
back when, and For What It's Worth, Buffalo Springfield cover is on that album. That's it. It's a really cool album. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, this is all down to Jürgen. It was his choice. And he had the knowledge as well. I mean, I didn't. I kind of, my head's buried in the sand most of the time. I don't know who the hell's doing what, and then I pop up and say, "Well, that sounds nice."
Sometimes
And
that's a good thing.
well, it was in this case, I think, because I didn't bring any baggage from preconceptions to the
Right.
table,
Yeah.
and in a way, it was like I'd been on the planet Zog and just dropped dropped onto planet Earth and kind of and progressive music, which out of nowhere, and I really like that. That was a good experience for me. I'm just lazy, I suppose. I'm just terribly lazy about listening to stuff, and um, I keep kind of trying to go right back to basics. So I find
Hmm.
kind of things like just listening to noise, listening to nature,
Hmm.
listening to kind of early music, just seeing what's on now,
Right.
on
Right.
TV, anywhere. I like that because I'm looking to be surprised all the time. That's what I'm kind of looking for, or to see something there that I've never seen before. That's really my kind of inspiration. That's kind of where I live musically, rather than living in the territory of my colleagues. Really, I don't kind of, I mean, I love working with musicians I meet up with, and they're all great. But I don't sit down and listen to my music, and I don't sit down and listen to many other people's music as well. It's what comes into me that I pick
Hmm.
up on, or if I'm working with somebody, then I'm listening, heart and soul, every part of me. But I don't listen to music for pleasure in that kind of way. I don't sit down
Mhm.
and put a beloved, record on or anything like that. I haven't done that for, since I was a teenager, really. I don't know why. It's a bit weird, I think, but um, it's a kind of there was a kind of exhaustion that came over me kind of early on, really,
Mhm.
um, in my early 20s, when I kind of just felt swamped. There was just so much music out there.
Right.
I just couldn't cope with it. Couldn't cope with the amount of it. Um, and so I kind of had to retreat from listening to music in that kind of way, and I just kind of stayed there, really. So I pop in and out of things, and any musician that I work with, I will engage with absolutely fully. But as regards, building up a real concept of what's happened before my lifetime and during my lifetime, I don't have much idea, really. I'm a bit of a hermit in that way, but it doesn't, people don't seem offended by it,
Mhm.
you know, and I'm not unhappy being
Mhm.
where I am. So although it's a bit weird, this is where I live, and I just have to put up with it. And so does everybody else, right? But I'm terribly ignorant about everything, the
But you
music.
know you play such an interesting instrument, which a lot of people really can enjoy. I mean, there isn't a lot of masters. You got Jean-Luc Ponty, which I've had on my show,
Yeah.
Joe Denizon, Daryl Way. They've all been on my show, and I don't know, kind of similar personalities to you. I don't know if it's the electric violin thing or what.
Like this attract weird people. I, I think it does. Yeah. I mean, it's a bizarre thing to want to do, isn't it?
It's a great instrument, though. It's
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think you see, I mean, the people you're talking about, I mean, they're all geniuses. I mean, they all actually can play the violin and started being able to do that. I kind of have been learning to play the violin via playing the electric violin
right.
in public for a long time, and been failing in public, and picking myself up and trying to move forwards again. And I'm probably, I sort of, I'm still practicing, trying to get better, working through things that probably, a lot of 8-year-old violinists would waltz through, and I'd still say, oh, that's how you do that. Oh, I see, and I kind of learning very basic things very late on in my life. So,
Well,
but
it's always a learning thing in
yeah,
as a musician,
I kind of what was a big thing to me was to opt in to electric violin, and that is my instrument, and I kind of don't play acoustic. It kind of happened to me anyway. I
Right.
just became less and less able to play an acoustic instrument to the point where I couldn't bear picking it up because it sounded so
Huh.
awful. And more and more able to get my electric instrument to respond, in a creative and fluid way. And
Right.
that's where I've gone with it. But I wish I'd arrived with more technique at the beginning. I must say, it would have made some things a lot easier.
David, you're too modest, though, man. I
No,
mean,
no,
to
no.
play in King Crimson, you got to be pretty damn good.
Well, or I don't know, naive, arrogant. I think there's all
They don't
sorts of
take just
words.
anybody.
Yeah, I think I might have made an error with bringing me along, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, maybe my ignorance was bliss. I mean, I think I was able to contribute some interesting stuff to it because
Oh yeah.
because it wasn't, I didn't know where it was coming from or where it was going to. So it was all new, and anything was up for grabs, really. But I mean, they were fantastic musicians,
Yeah.
all of them.
Well,
Yeah.
the lineup you were in was incredible too.
Oh, it was
King Crimson's has so many different lineups, but I love John Wetton. He
mm,
was incredible.
yeah, yeah. No, he's a lovely man,
Yeah.
and he is sadly missed. I'm glad I got to talk to him more. Just as time. I mean, we were never close and friends or anything
Hmm.
afterwards, and obviously we were in each other's pockets all the time for a couple of years. But I met him a couple of times, in odd places, over the years, and we did talk properly together, and that was, I'm so pleased we did, and he touched me a lot. He made me feel, he made me understand things, which I hadn't understood at the time. It was great to talk to him, and but also, I mean, Robert's played on stuff that I've done, and I've had wonderful chats with Bill and stuff as well. Jamie Muir's the only one I haven't had anything to do with. He just sort of disappeared, and I saw him sometime in the '80s, I think, but I haven't seen him since.
Who was that? Bill Bruford?
No, I've seen Bill. No,
Okay.
Jamie Muir. He was the Larks Tongues
Right.
drummer. There were two drummers on Larks Tongues.
Right.
He was improvising drummer who was on Larks Tongues. And he was in. I saw him, I think, once or twice during the '80s, but I haven't seen him since. And that's. They were great people to work with, great musicians to work with, but all really quite warm people as well. I think I was very lucky to be in that situation, because a lot of not so nice people out there.
There is, yeah, I agree with you. Well, I'm gonna bring out the genius in you now. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Exiles, come on, man. That's
nice.
you.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely piece. Yeah.
That's incredible, and that's all you.
Well, it's not all me, but
well, a lot of it.
Yeah. Some of it is. No, it's I mean, for me, it's the lyrics of that make
very emotional. Yeah.
Stuff, and that's why with the David Cross band, we used him in a lot of stuff to write lyrics, and I just did a couple of gigs. When was that? October.
Really? Where?
Yeah, in Czech Republic.
Whoa.
There was a kind of tiny window, and it was Stickmen were going to do a tour, and I was going to appear with them on a couple of gigs.
Right.
Fly over to do this couple of gigs, and they were doing a sort of European tour, and then they couldn't do it because of COVID, and there were these two gigs which were supposed to be kind of a Crimson Marathon, and so they offered it to Marcus Reuter played it with he's got a trio, Truce. He played it, and they asked me to play it as well with my band. So we did that, and we also got Richard Palmer James to come along. So he did a solo show, which included the Court of the Crimson King. So he pinched my band.
Oh, wow!
The Crimson King, and then he came on and played with me. And he sang and played on The Pool, which is David Cross band tune. So it was fabulous, and I did a duo with Marcus as part of our set. And then Marcus stayed, and we played Larks Tongues Part 2, and he played through that as well.
Oh, so wonderful!
It was really two really memorable nights, and it wasn't wasn't too scary considering I hadn't played for 18 months before. But it was great to get out. But now the border seemed to have shut down again. We just seemed to get
did
these two gigs, got back again.
Yeah.
It's all got difficult again now. But
yeah.
It was lovely to get in front of an audience and play. It was fabulous.
Oh, we miss it. We all miss it.
I know.
You need to be a snowbird here. I'm in Florida.
Oh, right. Are you?
You need to be a snowbird because Florida, it's wide open. I mean, all the concerts are open, and we don't care. We're acting like nothing happened.
Whereabouts are you in Florida? Which part of Florida?
The West Coast, Sarasota, Bradenton area, south of Tampa.
Oh, it's south of Tampa, is it? Oh, I thought it was north of Tampa.
South of Tampa, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's going to be beautiful there all the time, isn't it?
All the time. And this is, you know how many Brits we have here in Sarasota? They own this town.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of snowbirds. Yeah, a lot of Europeans. Yeah. So the
Is that what
influence here is great.
snowbirds are? This is all new to me. Snowbirds are Europeans, are they? Or what?
Yeah, a lot of European snowbirds here. Yeah, yeah. One song that I love, probably in my top three of all time, is Starless, written by John Wetton.
Mm.
Very interesting song, isn't it? And you've done it many a times in different ways, and with the violin, which is incredible. That's a great way to, you know,
To play
to
the tune.
introduce Starless. It's
Yeah.
and you've done
Yeah.
this with Mr. Fripp.
Yes. Yeah. We got a whole album, a whole album based on it. And I thought I'd exhausted the every possibility for how to play this,
You got
tune.
that one down, Pat.
Yes, I think so. But anyway, I thought we'd done it, and then we were going to put it. We haven't done it yet, but we're going to put it out on vinyl, and because of you need more material to have two vinyls
Right.
out of it. So we were asked, if we had any more, and I went back to Tony Lowe, who produced it with
Mm-hmm.
me, and we actually found another couple of little tracks there as well, and just by thinking about things a different way, and I got the kind of gears are rolling away, and I think, well, maybe if we could do this, think about it slightly different way, there might even be a whole other album, maybe we could get another one out of this as well. So maybe there might even eventually, if I live long enough, be two Starless albums, two whole albums, Starless. Yeah, what can you do? It's just da 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 da. It's just all based on that.
Yeah.
We don't even get to the song properly, but
Yeah.
the whole album's built around that. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a great song though.
It is.
I
It
never
is.
get tired of it.
No, it is lovely. I've even done I've got another album coming out in
Oh, good.
the new year, which is a DCB album, and that's called currently anyway. I think it still will be Ice Blue Silver Sky, which is part of it was Richard Palmer James
Mm-hmm.
lyrics. But this is we do a version of Starless in that, and within that, what I've done is gone back to, because they've got a lot of voices and talking in this whole album.
Mm-hmm.
With the band talking about music and stuff like that. And we've got some new material in there. We've got some stuff I adapted from stuff I did with David Jackson. We put in and got lyrics for that from the singer on the album, Julian Wilde. And
Right.
but we did a version of Starless. There were some things that we've been doing on stage, started to do on stage, that I wanted to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that always kind of haunted me was the origin of the fact that Starless and Bible Black comes from Undermilk Wood,
Right.
Dylan Thomas verse play, and what we started doing on live more recent years was starting to get parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
Before in some concerts I'd done it with DCB, and I did it with Stickman as well. I just read the beginning of that play, which includes the Starless and Bible Black phrase, because I think it gives a kind of atmosphere to it.
Right.
And what I did for this album is we went to the play and we got this kind of it's all set, on the Welsh coast at night, and you can hear, there's this kind of wind going on, and you
Mm-hmm.
can hear these voices, and the voices are the voices of the dead who've been shipwrecked. It's
Interesting.
Captain Cat and all these people. It's very strange voices, and
Huh.
we've got all these voices going on. So we brought them in. So, when it goes down to the bong, 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 da gong,
Yeah.
dong, all that bit, where it all breaks down. We've now got these voices, which a lot of them are me. Coming through. I'm going to get on it somehow. So we've got me coming through with these, I can't remember any of the lines. I won't spoil it by trying to do it now, but just these little phrases coming through, and then they build up as well. So we've got this added layer of tension building up, and we've got a bit of a hint of a shipwreck going on there,
Oh,
hidden away.
wow.
I mean,
Nice.
and there's even a kind of high string part which was never there before, which we kind of brought in now, which just makes it, when it gets to the last chord now, before it all kind of takes off at the end, it's got this kind of, it just turns out a little bit darker than it's ever been before, you know. So I'm looking forward to see whether people like that. They'll probably hate it because
Well, I like it already.
yeah, I like it. I like it. But, you know, people are very traditional about these things. You know,
When is this
don't.
coming out? When will it be released?
Well, I want to get out Orange's Marigold. I want to get people onto that one at the moment,
Right.
but it's going to be in the new year when I can see a
Okay.
way. Everything's ready. It's
Good.
mastered and it's all ready to go. We haven't completed the artwork yet, but it's ready to go.
Good.
So, you know, as soon as I can see a way of getting it out, maybe getting some gigs to try and promote it, it'll be in
Yeah.
the new year. Not too
We'll
long away.
circle around when that comes out and
Yeah.
promote that one too. Are
That would be
are you
fantastic.
planning at all to come to the States for
I'm always
a
planning
tour?
to come to the States. I keep saying I'll come to the States, and the States never wants me to come. They don't try and put me off. There's, you know, it's an expensive business because
Yeah.
of the you know, the visa and everything that you have to have, and it's so it's not just like popping over to Europe. Mind you, popping over to Europe isn't as easy as it was before the United Kingdom decided to
Exactly.
leave Europe. So
It's all
that's now
tough now. Yeah.
harder than it used to be. But the States is, you know, is harder. I really would love to, you know, almost if there was any way to get over there and play, I would love to
Mhm.
do it. Um, you know, there are, you know, there are people, um, you know, I've been talking to about it. Things, you know, things have nearly come together and then
Yeah.
sort of disappeared again. So I'm just too peripheral on things, I think, to get over there at the moment. But you know, I would so love to. I would so love to get back and play in the States. Yeah.
You know what would have been cool if the David Cross band opened up for King Crimson, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you
That
would
would be.
get on stage with King Crimson and play with them, you know,
Yeah.
on a couple
There
of
you go.
things. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Talk
Well,
to him.
I think they know I'm willing
Talk
and
to
happy
Tony
to do that. No, I don't.
or Robert Fripp, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what he says. I think I've offered. I think I offered already in the past sometime and didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
um,
People would love to see you in that band too, you know. If they asked you to rejoin King Crimson, would you do it?
um, it depends what it was and you know whether whether it looked like fun or not. And what kind of terms? What were we going to do? You know,
Right.
how many more drummers would there be? And
Yeah, that's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah.
I think it would be, yeah, I think it would be lovely. I think it would be great. Um, but you know, we'd see. I'd need to be able to, you know, be the kind of person I've turned into as well as the person I was. I'm not really the person I was. So I'd need to be me
You need
if
to
it
be
was.
me. I gotta be me.
I got yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Radius. I've
Yeah.
been trying to find some music from
Yeah.
Radius, and I'm having a hard time finding that. Why is that?
Um, well, it doesn't. It's well, it's not released. I mean, I've got it. I've got what have I got? One. I've got Civilizations I could release again, but we wouldn't sell enough to make it worth putting out.
Even on
Putting
YouTube, you wouldn't. You would, yeah.
so it's probably that. I mean, Jeff Searle was the drummer, was the person behind that, and
Right.
who is a very interesting musician. But you see, I mean, he disappeared. I was looking for
Hmm.
him for 5 years, 10 years or something, because I had a load of his stuff stored in our attic. We converted that into, you know, more space in the house, and I had to throw his stuff away. And so apart from anything else, I was looking
Oh,
for him.
no.
Look at us going in a skip outside with checking it out. But I couldn't find him for love or money. But finally, this year we connected up again over because somebody found an old some snaps and pictures of
Hmm.
when we played together at WOMAD Festival. So I have managed to chat to him since then. Um, yeah, I mean, he's put his stuff out, and he owns the rights to most of it. He did
Right.
recordings for most of them, and so he's released it and it's already gone. But it is hard. These are in a way kind of dead records, aren't they? If they're
It's a
not,
shame, though. You know.
it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I owe a big debt to him because he got me to play in a way I didn't think I could. He made me realize
Right.
things about my own playing that I didn't think were possible. I mean, this was kind of after Crimson,
Hmm.
and he was kind of, I've been learning jazz. I think I've been trying to learn jazz and getting nowhere with that, and it was quite hard to do and didn't come naturally. And then he put me in a situation with Radius where it was possible to play, and in a kind of almost magical way, just suddenly, oh, is that me? God, how did I do that? I've never done that before, And that was him. He just had the knack of putting the right people together
Yeah.
and just creating the right feel. He could see that with that feel, the people would give their best, and that's what he did for me. He found a way of bringing me out, and um, I just was so excited after that. I kind of began to think I might have a career as a violin player after that. Really kind of said, this is possible. I can do these things, and so it was forever a treat to do those. Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It, it should be released. Because people
Re-released,
need to
yeah,
hear it. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You did many albums. You did Arc Measuring,
That's
Sightseeing,
right. Yeah.
Elevation, There Is No Peace, and Civilizations, which
My
came out in
goodness,
2000. Yeah.
I'm very impressed. I couldn't have done that, but absolutely.
That's my job.
Yes.
That's what I do. I don't play violin.
No, yeah. Also, you have a memory. I've given up on my
That
memory
I
of what.
got. I have a
Yeah,
great memory. Yeah.
you do. That's fantastic. No, they are. They are. They're lovely. Yeah, I mean, that's worth a thought, actually, isn't it? I mean, as a package or even as a best of, that's worth putting
It
together.
should be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll write note to self. I'll talk to Jeff.
Yeah. At least on YouTube, they should have some of the
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah. No, I think they're worth another hearing. Certainly. Yeah.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah.
David, here's a question I ask everybody. I get some really interesting answers on this. I've asked
Yeah.
everyone I interview, John McLaughlin, Billy Cobb, everyone,
Mm.
Daryl Way, Jean-Luc Ponty. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would
Yeah.
that be?
Ah, Beethoven is what comes into my head, actually.
Good answer. Yeah. I don't get enough of that
Yeah.
as far as answers, the great composers.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I just so impressed by his strength of feeling
Hmm.
and kind of mental insight.
Right.
Uh, it particularly kind of his late string quartets are really kind of very strange, some of them. And I don't think it's because he was just going deaf. I think he actually had a kind of had a really wonderful vision, and I would just love to be around that kind of energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that kind of understanding and insight. There's something about music that's reveals something about human beings, and beyond that,
Hmm.
as I'm beginning to realize, it's something about the nature of existence itself, the nature of the universe and everything. There's something magnificent in music. The people in a way aren't important, but these people like Beethoven just have somehow managed to access something so fundamental and to
Hmm.
be able to deal with it, and create wonderful things out of it. I think why Beethoven, as opposed to say Bach or somebody, is this Beethoven has this this real humanity.
Right.
Beethoven, he had to struggle during his life as well. It didn't just, it wasn't like Mozart. It was just it was there. I think, although he had all that kind of wonderful insight that these great musicians he had to struggle, I think, with his decisions and struggle to get his vision there. And I just think it must be wonderful to, it would be wonderful to sit down and jam with him.
Beethoven and the electric violin. Wow. Imagine that. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
That would sound great. Yeah. We think the Beatles have staying power. Look at Beethoven, Bach, Mozart.
And they are extraordinary. I mean, they're extraordinary composers. I think the more, the more you kind of know, the more you realize the more you don't know. But with these kind of musicians, they just have so much ability. And the proof of the pudding is how long they've lasted, and that these things still work. And today it seems so difficult, to sort of ordinary musicians like me to think, what could you come up with now,
right,
that would grab the attention of the planet?
Yeah,
how could you do that?
Exactly.
How would you do that? And it just seems an impossible task. We've all got very different kind of backgrounds on that, but Beethoven does that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Four Elise. Everybody knows the Fifth Symphony. You just play a few notes.
Yeah.
And it's there. It's absolutely wonderful.
But you know what? You got the right instrument to appeal to younger generations. You know that? Yeah, electric violin.
Oh, right.
I think so. You just got to come up with a incredible composition. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. You got any ideas?
I expect that next week, Monday.
Incredible composition.
That's your deadline. Most of the answers I get to that question are like Paul McCartney, the Beatles, but only a few, very, very few say the great composers. And one artist comes to mind, Ian Anderson, says the same thing like you. Yeah. So maybe that's a sign you and Ian need to get together. I could see that.
It is, yes, yeah. Well, I did think of him for something I was working on, actually.
Right.
So maybe there's a thought there. Yeah, I've started getting into Shakespeare now. So
right,
writing something around the Tempest, and I was thinking about the flute. I was thinking about shakuhachi possibly, and then Ian Anderson was the other thing I was thinking about, in terms of sounds to represent Ariel in the beginning of the Tempest. So yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
I don't think Ian has had a electric violinist in any of his albums, right?
I don't know. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
He might have. I think he's had. I can't remember his name now. It's terrible. Jobson.
Jobson.
Yes, he was in the band at one time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be interviewing Ian soon, so I'm going to mention you to him.
Well, mention it to him, yeah. Get in touch.
David, you got anything else for me? Is there anything else you need to promote or anything?
No, I'll keep quiet about the other thing. I'll tell you the other thing next time we talk.
Okay, it's a secret.
I have another secret, but I'm working on something with contributions from other musicians, which I've never really done before. But they're writing pieces for me now.
Wow, really?
And that's all coming together in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Awesome. So when do you think that'll come to fruition?
That'll be out probably after the next DCB thing, or even before, actually, because it's coming together very fast. It's actually
You're a busy guy. You're not lazy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm lazy about listening to other proper music.
Oh, okay.
I should know about all my contemporaries and everything, and I never do. I keep thinking I'll get round to that, and I never do. I do things like Google what's new in music and stuff
Right.
like that, and and I'm kind of down that road, and
Yeah.
but I never go back to the same place, so I never really learn properly. I think, oh, that's good. That's nice for today. Just like
I think you're way too modest. I think you're an incredible musician. Okay.
very kind thing to say.
And
Very
compared to today's music on the radio, you are Beethoven.
right. I'll take that thought away with me. Yeah.
David,
Lovely
I
to
want to thank you, man, for being on the show today. It's been a real pleasure. We'll
It's been
circle around with your other projects coming out. Good luck with the new album. I loved it.
Thank you.
It's a very cool album, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Hope to see you in Florida one day soon, maybe.
Saratoga, I'll be down there. And my love to all your listeners, and thank you for listening.
And Merry Christmas to you
And to you, Ray.
and to your family.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
David. Bye-bye now. Take care.
Thank you.